So nice to meet Gnip here in Boulder, Colorado, but who are you?
I'm Eric Marcoullier. I'm the CEO of a small company called Gnip.
Yeah. And what does Gnip do? And then we'll talk about what it does for businesses.
Right on. So at its core, Gnip is a service that creates a meta API out of all sorts of social APIs on the web. And for many of your users, or many of your listeners or viewers, it's like, what the hell is that? And what it boils down to is there are lots of services out there.
Like Twitter.
Like Twitter and Flickr and YouTube and Facebook. All of these services are fundamentally driven by user-generated content.
Yeah.
And there are hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of companies out there that take advantage of that data for various purposes, whether it's market research, whether it's creating cool new apps like a tweet deck, for instance. Takes advantage of Twitter data and presents it in a fundamentally new and many would say an improved format.
Yeah.
When you're trying to get a lot of data, or even and whether that's off of one service or a lot of data across many services, the work required to integrate with an API for Twitter, an API for Flickr, an API for YouTube, and on and on and on. I think any engineer with worth their salt would say that's not a hard problem. The challenge is when you're trying to do that for lots and lots of services,
yeah, and
manage that over time with changing APIs. It's just a freaking pain in the ass.
Yeah, well, like this morning when Twitter was down, right? But forget that. Twitter has API caps that if you're really trying to suck a lot of data out quickly, you have to build an interesting hodgepodge of systems to get that data.
Exactly.
And so you guys take care of all that complexity and all that terror.
We do automatic provisioning of boxes for companies. We pass along the various attributes, whether it's a company name or the credentials or whatever. So all of the work required to get voluminous amounts of data from those services becomes just a very simple process of setting up an account with Gnip and then passing on your whitelist information if you've got it.
Yeah. So for most businesses, like, I don't know, a bike manufacturer or a small restaurant, like we just had lunch at a sushi restaurant, this stuff is like
totally not for them. Totally not for them.
So what kind of business would use? What kind of business is using you, and what kind of business do you think would use you in the future?
So right now, it's a lot of market research companies. Yeah. It's a lot of blue chip internet companies, a lot of technology companies. But one of the things that we found is that while providing all of this data, this data platform that we've created to app developers is great, and that's going to be the core of our business for the long term. There's another market which is sort of moving up the value chain, which is you go to a company, for instance, we're selling into or we've just sold into a music company right now, and so they've got tons of artists on the roster. And we initially started the conversation with, all right, you guys need to track lots of data for all these artists. Yeah. Here's the data source. You go build something. What they came back and said, well, look, that's great and all, but can you just build it for us? And okay, yeah, we can build it for you. And so, well, that's not nearly as the application itself isn't nearly as good as many of the other single service apps out there. Yeah. So there are Twitter clients that are just off the hook, and there are Facebook applications that are incredible. We are able to create a multi-platform application that, while basic, serves the basic needs of a company, and then also sell that data platform to somebody else who long-term will create a much better application. Yeah. And that's great because if short-term we can sell into an organization and then help 10 of our competitors or 20 of our competitors make something better, we'll sell to all of them as well. It's a great position to be in.
What are you, since you're at the center of the new world, and we're getting around the world and understanding how Twitter and Facebook and Friend Feed and all these guys are changing the world, what are you seeing? What are you seeing happen right now that normal businesses need to pay attention to? And then what are you seeing from the data streams that are going through your screens every day that you're learning from that is interesting?
So I'll answer that two ways. First of all is so many people called the semantic web. They said that was going to be Web 3.0, if you will. Yeah. And I've never really bought into that notion because the semantic web essentially entails creating meaning out of a lack of meaning. So you go to a web page and you use technology to say, this is an article about Eric Marcoullier, or it's about Gnip, or it's about the band U2. That is a very hard problem. What most people would say is a fundamentally unsolvable problem. What you're trying to do is get 70% or 80% or 90%. The thing is, there's so much structured data out there that tells you what it's about. So, movie data, go to Flickster, right? Flickster tells you everything about a movie, or you can go to IMDb, or you can go to Netflix.
Yeah.
So if you consider that there's all this data out there in a structured format, if you're going to build an application, start there. And when I was at the Real-Time Crunch Up recently,
Yeah.
the TechCrunch conference, somebody smarter than I sort of defined it as if Web 1.0 was this idea that there was content on a page,
Yeah.
and Web 2.0 was this concept of there's data out there that I can bring to me. What Web 3.0 really appears to be is here's content, let me push it to you.
Yeah.
And so that's what Streams is all about, and that's fundamentally what Gnip was initially built to solve. Is this idea of your company has lots of information that you're making available by an API. APIs, the concept of constantly asking, is there anything new? Is there anything new? Is there anything new for Rocky? Is there anything new for Eric? Is there anything new for you? For all of our engineers? That's a grossly inefficient process.
Yep.
If you can push that intelligently, then you've created a very efficient solution that not only creates efficiency, it also speeds up the process. It's now not hours or days between an activity happening and you knowing about it, it's seconds.
So are you using PubSub, Hubbub, SUP from Friends?
SUP, exactly.
Yeah.
So what we do is we go where the money is.
Yeah.
And as much as and actually I think we're going to start using SUP because YouTube is deployed SUP, and that's pretty cool. But as much as I love Brad Fitzpatrick over at Google with PubSub Hubbub, for instance, we've had more companies ask for SMTP, email-based delivery of data, and FTP-based delivery of data than folks that have asked for PubSub Hubbub and XMPP and SUP combined.
Yep.
And so, given that
because that's what we all know, right?
Well, that's exactly it.
This is why we do Building 43. We're trying to explain the modern world, the new world. Everybody knows the old world, and we're trying to get them into the new world. Right?
And when you're trying to sell to the old world, you go with the technologies they understand. They understand SMTP, they understand FTP, they understand HTTP. Yeah. XMPP, not a freaking clue. Yeah. PubSub Hubbub, never heard of it. Please don't make us build something new. Eventually, that's going to become the standards. I have no doubt that at some point, widespread PubSub-based architecture is going to be, outbound push delivery is going to be the way that data moves around the web. Right now, we're one mechanism for that, but the best thing in the world would be for more companies to adopt that, because it makes our life easier. It makes it fundamentally easier for us to take data from one place and move it to a bunch of other places. Yeah. We're just unlikely to be a pioneer in that space. We're going to be a fast follower once it gets adopted.
Yeah. What else are you seeing? Because you're watching the streams go through your systems, you're probably learning a lot about what's going on in the world that normal people who barely know what Twitter is.
I wish I could offer some fantastic epiphany about data.
When Michael Jackson died, do you study the?
We don't. That's the thing. We don't introspect the data at all.
Interesting.
So people set up rules, and those rules could be, I'm following Robert Scoble on Twitter. It could be I want to track the number of references or the keyword Michael Jackson on Flickr. That's different. I'm tracking Gnip.com as a URL, but we've got so much data flowing through the system that as soon as we make the match, we send it on. We don't actually take a look at the content. Yeah. And so at this point, we're on an average day, about 100 million activities come in the system, and we probably fire off a 10x on that. And we're growing to the point that by the end of the year, we'll probably have about 1 billion activities going through us.
Tell me about the infrastructure that runs that then.
AWS, baby. We are Amazon's biggest fan. And they've got some cool stuff coming down the pipe that's going to make it even more cost efficient for us to run this on AWS. Yeah. But the ability to just not have to worry about this. I mean, there are guys doing very smart things in Boulder that are heavily stream based.
We should talk to you about getting you on the Rackspace Cloud.
Well, there we go.
Probably save you some money.
I know one of the cats over there. So we should have that conversation. Yeah. But love you AWS. But I mean, the guys are doing the old school, hosted model, and it's just so expensive to run that. Yeah. to just.
So you don't own racks and racks of servers. You just do it all on the
We've got like 3 boxes in there for internal stuff, and everything else is AWS.
We love that story, actually. I think that's the future of how businesses are going to be built. You know, you're not going to own servers. And I've seen that happen over and over. At Techstars, for instance, a lot of the companies are doing cloud-based stuff.
And there's a parallel right there. I mean, when you think of data on demand, essentially what you're saying is that's data in a cloud.
Yeah.
And so, you know, compute's in the cloud. It's like the natural endpoint of you know, installed software, software as a service, and now it's just software in a cloud. Yeah. And you know, it makes doing a startup like this so incredibly efficient, where all we're worried about is actually building stuff. So we've got a sysadmin who definitely helps out, and you know, we just moved in here, so there's the phone support, there's getting our fobs for the door, but he's also focused on actually building a lot of technology to help us automatically provision stuff on AWS that in a specific format for us to use. Yeah. So every single person in this company is building product as opposed to having to manage infrastructure. Yeah. And that, I mean, that's the efficiency that you want.
What have you learned about building a business on cloud infrastructure? Do you have tips for other businesses? You know, mistakes you've made that you had to rethink your architecture or whatnot to work with that? Because working with cloud is a little bit different than owning your own rack of servers and having complete control, right?
It is, but then, and obviously I can't speak for rack space, but with AWS, their uptime is so high, you know, 3 nines, 4 nines, whatever it is that, and I'm very much speaking out of turn in a way because I'm not the implementer at all. Yeah. I'm the one guy who's inefficient and that I'm not building stuff for the company. But from all appearances, there is actually very little difference between paying rack space, traditionally what they were 2 years ago. Yeah. Here's $50 or $100 a month to go run a server, and just automatically provisioning a virtual one in the cloud. And I mean, that's really, I think, why the cloud has taken off so well. Is it's a different XMPP versus REST. Developers understand, or sorry, XMPP versus HTTP. Yep. Developers have worked with HTTP for years now, yep, and understand it implicitly. There really is no difference between running a server in the cloud or to Colo. Yep. And it's that level of obfuscation that has made it very, very easy for two guys. I mean, I think most of the Techstars guys, if not all of them at this point, are either doing the Rackspace cloud or the AWS cloud, because there's no difference to them in how they work with it than if they went and paid somebody $50.
Yeah, 4 of the 10 companies are on Rackspace, so Amazon probably has, what, the other 5? It has 3. right, Rob's over here, he's counting.
Right on, very cool.
He's the guy who keeps track of this stuff.
But so, I mean, check that out, 7 out of 10 companies are in the cloud, and it's because it's so easy to do. Yeah.
No, any new startup, they're not going to waste time hiring somebody to manage a data center. It's just not going to happen.
Our systems administrator was our 12th hire. Wow. He's our newest guy. We've been around for 14 months, and finally said, bigger office, and really it was a lot of the technological provisioning stuff that caused us to go out and hire that rollout. If we weren't doing the fancy hosted polling stuff, we might not have hired that position for a while more.
Any last stuff that we need to know about what Gnip does and how what businesses should be calling you?
Well, so at this point, it's brand companies. Yeah. We sell it into 2 levels of the organization.
Coca-Cola or something like
exactly.
That.
So if you're an engineer that needs lots and lots of data for your application or for your server, then we work at that level. And now if you're a brand manager, you're marketing, PR, or sales, and you either want to distribute a message broadly, so we just launched a tool recently where you get a dashboard, you can type something out, you can say this is my post, and have it automatically show up on Twitter and Facebook and Dig and Delicious and wherever else. So we speak at that level too, but mostly it's about folks that either have a massive need for content or want to take their content and distribute it all around the web.
Very cool.
We move data.
Thank you very much.
Robert,
this has been a
pleasure.
Thanks.